Greeting family, greeting African descent, greeting friend of Africans and African descent. It's my pleasure today to host this podcast. And welcome to the Global Renaissance Podcast. And I'm your host, Brother Mpeke Ndonga Metilame Yodi, also known as Alphonse Mpeke. And today we are diving into a revolutionary concept that challenges how we think about the world's most pressing problems. We're talking about a groundbreaking book and a new science called Spiritopsychopathology, developed by the brilliant scholar Dr. Mpeke Ndonga. This book is a conceptual framework that argues that we see as isolated global crisis, racism, colonialism, and exploitation are in fact symptoms of a single collective civilizational sickness. It's a bold idea, and it offers not just a diagnosis but a path to healing. To help us explore this, we have as a guest myself, Alphonse Mpeke Ndonga Metilame Yodi, a scholar and a researcher from the EMAC. Welcome to the show. And you, the guests, you guys, the audience, and thank you for being there. Thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here to discuss this vital new work. It's exactly 7:18. We're on the 21st August 2025. The time for you to settle, to listen to some music. And we will be back. So, welcome back to our podcast. And as I say, we are tackling a very serious topic. And let's start with segment one. What is psychopathology? Let me say it again. Spiritopsychopathology. So, the title alone is powerful. Can we break it down for us? What spiritopsychopathology is and why it's so different from traditional psychology. Well, the title alone is quite powerful. It's quite powerful. Can we break it down? Yes, we can. We can break it down. Absolutely. Yeah, but traditionally, psychology often focuses on the individual diagnosis, individual disorders, but spiritopsychopathology scales this up. It posits that Western civilization itself as a deep collective illness, what the book calls a civilization syndrome. The primary pathology is state of collective narcissism and sociopathy. These worldviews detached from a holistic understanding of the world has led to the dehumanization of non-Western peoples and the commodification of nature. So, it's not a crime of individuals, but a diagnosis of collective mental illness. Yes, of course, exactly. It's an immoral and a psychological critique of Western itself. So the book argued that the dominant civilizations remains a false sense of superiority by projecting itself, its own fears and moral failing onto the others, particularly onto African and African descendant people. By doing this, it justifies its own destructive actions. It's a paradigm shift. Instead of asking what is wrong with the victims of oppression, it asks what is wrong with the oppressor and the system they have built. And this new discipline is rooted in African-centered thought. How does that influence its perspective? So let's say it's fundamental. The framework draws from Coafrwology, a sovereign African science, just presented quite recently by the same author, Brother Pekentonga, myself. It's a reveal of a traditional gaze which has always been Eurocentric by centering African philosophies and cosmologies. It shows how the holistic principles of Ubuntu, for example, are a direct antidote to the fragmentation and exploitation inherent in the pathology. So let's move to segment 2, the sickness and the modern world. It's one thing to talk about historical pathologies, but the book argues this sickness is a living, evolving thing. What are some of the contemporary expressions we see today? In fact, the book in chapter 9, Contemporary Expressions, is fascinating. It argues that the pathology has simply adapted its tools. We no longer see the overt physical violence of classic colonialism, but its spirit lives on in more insidious form. Can we have some example here? Certainly, the book highlights neocolonialism, which is organized theft through economic system rather than direct political rules. It's the idea of development aid and free trade masking a system of perpetual dependency. It also looks at institutional racism, which is not just individual prejudice, but a set of policies and practices in our legal economy and social systems that systematically disadvantage Black and marginalized peoples. The book argued that these are not accidental flaws, but the predictable outcome of a system designed to maintain racial hierarchy. So, and the book also mentioned technology, which is a new frontier for this kind of analysis. Yes, indeed, it's a crucial point. The pathology has found a new home in technological dominations. Things like algorithm, bias in AI, and data surveillance are presented not as natural tools, but as new instrument to control, profile, and categorize populations. It's the same old sickness in a high-tech suite, extending its reach into the digital and biological realms. Let's move to segment 3, the therapy, resistance, and healing. So, with such a deep and pervasive illness, what is the path to healing? The book posits that African resistance itself is a form of diagnosis of a therapy. How does that work? In fact, this is perhaps the most powerful and hopeful part of the book. It reinterprets African resistance from Maroon Age and Pan-Africanism to decolonialized struggles, not just as a reaction to oppression, but as a proactive act of self-liberation. These acts expose the moral emptiness of the pathology while simultaneously initiating a process of healing for African people. And what about the practical therapy method? The book mentioned Coafrwological therapy. Coafrwological therapy is a revolutionary approach to healing. It's based on three core pillars: restoring Ubuntu, which means it's move away from the Western individualistic model of therapy and focuses on recognizing individuals to the collective. It reminds us that our well-being is inseparable from the health of our community. Recentering African epistemology, that's the second point. It addressed the epistemicide, the destruction of indigenous knowledge, by affirming African history, philosophy, doctrines, and science as a valid form of knowledge. It restores a sense of intelligence, but also intellectuals and spiritual sovereignty. The third point is the healing rituals and memory work. The book emphasizes the importance of confronting historical trauma through collective rituals and practices leading to what it calls intergenerational repair. This is how you mend the spiritual and psychological rift caused by centuries of dominations. Segment 4, the Global African Renaissance. This is all built toward books, final visions. The Global African Renaissance, can we explain what it is? The book final chapter makes a crucial argument. The healing of African people is not an isolated event, but a prerequisite for the healing of the entire world. I want to repeat this. The book's final chapter makes a crucial argument. The healing of African people is not an isolated event, but a prerequisite for the healing of the entire world. It positions Africa not as passive victims, but as the agent of world history healing. Right, let's continue. So, it's not just about Africa, it's about the New World Order. Yes, precisely. The book argued that having endured and resisted this civilization sickness, African people possess a unique wisdom and resilience. The Global African Renaissance is the act of leveraging this wisdom, of building a new world based on the principle of Ubuntu, interconnectedness, and restorative justice. It is the ultimate global therapy. So, we continue by saying that it's a truly powerful and transformative vision. So, it's just kind of myself kind of leaving me quite speechless. But we will continue to explore the book, and the book itself, Spiritopsychopathology, a core coafrwological diagnosis and statistical manual of Spiritopsychopathology, will be available at the launch of the Coafrwology Paradigm Colloquium at SOAS University on November the 29th of this year, 2025. If you're ready to engage with a science that redefines our understanding of global crisis and offers genuine path to healing, this is a must read. And please get in touch with us and be part of this important event. Thank you for tuning in. Join us for the next another episode. But I will conclude this by letting some of you to know that as we start preparing the November 1st colloquium organized by the Global COAFRWO Limited in the UK, combined with the Institute for Contemporary African World Study. We're offering stands that are going to be utilized, that are going to be occupied by potential occupier that will be showcasing the African food, for instance, selling clothes, selling all kind of artifacts, groups, music. We've got stand available for this a special event where we are going to invite African high commissioners, ambassadors, politicians. It's a big event. It's an opportunity for you to expose your gift, your talent, and also support this historical event. So please feel free. I will leave my contact below this podcast, so you can contact us and request for the form for you to fill in and reserve your stand for the 29th November 2025, the day we're having our first Coafrwological colloquium here in London at SOAS University. Yes, this is a very important event. Thank you guys. And in the next podcast we will be talking about another book by the same author. At this time we're talking about the local strategy. It seemed to be something interesting. From now, let's say goodbye and stay tuned. Ubuntu Kama. Bye now.